Let's take a look at this press conference here of President Donald Trump.
We have to go live to Capitol Hill.
Mr. President, on California, Mr. President, during the pandemic, you often said that you didn't believe that you should bail out blue states that you believe were being mismanaged. Given your criticism of Governor Gavin Newsom, are you willing to work with him, and do you believe that federal aid should be provided to California for as long as it takes?
Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. And we're going to get that done. It's going to finally be done. I got it done from the federal side, and he didn't want to sign it, but it's not going to happen again like that. There's no reason. Can you imagine? You have farmers that don't have any water in California. They have plenty of water. They don't have a drought. They send it out to the Pacific, and it's crazy. So what's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. Nobody ever thought. I mean, virtually Beverly Hills and areas around Beverly Hills are being decimated. The biggest homes, some of the most valuable homes in the world are just destroyed. I don't even know. You know, you talk about a tax base. If those people leave, you're going to lose half your tax base of California. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants. They don't have water. And yet they have, the water comes from, you know where? Up north. And it comes down at levels, they give millions and millions of barrels of gallons of water that they have, and they send it out into the Pacific. For the Pacific, it's like a drop, it's nothing. But for California, it would take care of the whole state. So what's happened is a tragedy, and the governor has not done a good job. With that being said, I got along well with him when he was governor. We worked together very well, and we would work together. I guess it looks like we're going to be the one having to rebuild it. But what happened there, I don't think there's anything that I've ever seen quite like it. And the insurance companies are going to have a big problem because you're talking about big, big dollars.
Okay. As you can see, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, he feels, as a lot of us feel, Governor Gavin Newsom is responsible, or he has he's not doing his job to the highest level. He's just not. Let's take a look at a clip from 2019 when Donald Trump was in his first presidency, and he tells Gavin Newsom then. So he was talking about this then. He was talking about what could be done to mitigate the fires in California. So this clip here is from 2019. Take a look.
We're all committed. I'm committed to make sure that get all of this cleaned out and protected. Got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests. Very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that, to that end, and it's going to work out. It's going to work out well. But right now, we want to take care of the people that are so badly hurt, the families where they've lost. I mean, a lot of people have been lost. I guess, Jerry, you don't really know what the final. I don't know the full number. No, we won't know that for a while.
So there is President Trump in 2019 addressing the issues that they were having in California. Once again, this is not an anomaly. This happens in California often. President Trump traveled abroad, and he was given advice from president of another country. This is what they did to mitigate the fires that they were having, and they were doing it to a huge success. So Gavin Newsom is probably more concerned about being anti-Trump than being pro-citizen, than being pro-America. To me, it's ridiculous. And we see that more and more. It's painfully obvious. So let's go over to Governor DeSantis, who knows quite a bit about natural disasters because he is the governor of the state of Florida. Let's listen to Governor DeSantis rip the media in regards to how they are trying to attack Donald Trump over this.
For the president-elect or a president to be criticizing.
Is it appropriate for people in your industry to try to create division and to try to create narratives anytime these things happen? Now, you're not as interested in doing that because Newsom is a D. If Newsom was a Republican, you guys would go you would have him nailed to the wall for what they're doing over there. And I know we've dealt with it. We just assume in Florida, anytime something happens, it's going to be politicized by the media. So you guys sitting in judgment of Donald Trump, I mean, excuse me, I think your track record of politicizing these things is very, very bad.
Okay,
Governor DeSantis. I agree with them. When it's them, they don't want it politicized. But if it was a Republican governor and a Republican mayor, they would politicize the hell out of it. They would be all over it. This thing would be talked about every day, probably 24 hours, 24/7. Could this have been handled better? Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of the state, can't sit here and tell us, oh, I'm investigating. I don't know what happened. I'm investigating what happened, and basically telling us, oh, I'll get back to you. Dude, you're the governor of the state. And then you have the mayor. I mean, come on, man. This right here is Mayor Karen Bass. Dereliction of duty.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Frozen. Have no answer. So this is when she came back from Ghana. So keep this in mind. The chain event, the timeline here. You declared the fire an emergency. You go to Ghana. This thing just goes out of control because you don't have the correct processes in place. You don't have the correct infrastructure in place because, like the firefighter said that Joe Rogan was talking to, we have just been getting lucky. And then you cut the budget by $23 million. You have a governor that sits up here and tells us, I don't know what's going on. I'm investigating. Everybody wants to pass this thing along like a game of hot potato. No accountability. This lady is at the airport, just froze. Stuck as she's posing for a picture. Man. Let's take a look at the ladies of The View. One of my favorite ladies of The View, Whoopi Goldberg. You already know where she's going with this.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they're always saying, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time. Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that.
Excuse me for 1 second, man. But you see how the embellishment is? Whoopi Goldberg is going to play damage control. Damage control. If this was the Republican side, she would be totally, whatever she says here, it'd be opposite. You already know it. If it was a Republican governor, if it was a Republican mayor, that's what I'm saying. You have people that's about party. I don't care who the governor is, man, Democrat or Republican. If this was a Republican governor and they had this huge misstep like this, they should be called out on the carpet. They should be held accountable. There should be people looking into it and saying, okay, what could we have done? What preventative measures could we have done? Because this thing right here was exacerbated because we didn't have the correct processes in place. We didn't have water in the fire hydrants. We didn't have water in the reservoir. And you have a mayor that calls for a national emergency, and then after that, subsequently flies out of the country to Ghana. Come on, man.
We ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, we don't control Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn what we want. Mother Nature does what she does. And if you're in the way, this is what happens. All right.
Where are we at here? Let's take a look. Once again, President Trump, we got a press conference of him. All I got to say is President Trump has been right about everything so far. So far, he's been right about everything. So check this out.
All the other problems, they were not happy. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not they're going to build, or whether somebody else is going to build and build a much lesser home. These were the most expensive homes outside of Palm Beach County. I see a list outside of Palm Beach. These were the most expensive homes anywhere in the world. And I think a lot of them are just not going to go back and build it. Plus, they don't want to be part of a construction site. They don't want to, they're building a home, another one's building, they're building in front of them, behind them, alongside of them. So I think it's a tragedy. I think it's an incredible tragedy. It's also a tragedy for a tax base. And the governors know exactly what I'm talking. And I'd like to hear anybody talk about that. But if you're the governor of a state and you lost thousands of very rich people that were paying a lot of taxes and weren't happy about it, and weren't happy about what's happened to California, which has all the advantages of greatness, but they've had horrible politicians. I think that Gavin is largely incompetent, and I think the mayor is largely incompetent, and probably both of them are just stone cold incompetent. What they've done is terrible. Would anybody have a comment on that? Because when you talk about losing the tax base, you're losing a lot of, you're going to lose a lot of those people permanently. And those people pay billions of dollars in taxes. Governor, what about you?
We got some great property in Louisiana.
Yeah, well, they'll be moving to a lot of your states. They'll be moving to Florida, I can tell you. I know that. But they're going to be moving to, you're going to pick up a lot, Texas. So it's a rough situation. I've never seen, I think it's one of the great catastrophes in the history of our country. Not even believable.
Thanks for watching.
President Trump, some choice words for the governor of California, Governor Gavin, and the mayor, Karen Bass. There's going to be a lot of people that are on both sides, okay? And it's going to surprise you how many Democrats are going to ask for this guy to resign. They're going to let this guy have it, possibly the mayor as well. But Gavin Newsom, I think his political future is definitely in doubt. I know they were talking about him potentially running for president. That's done. That's a wrap. That's not going to happen. But if you're not convinced yet, let's take a look at Governor Newsom here. He is the quintessential politician. This guy right here, when people say, I hate politicians, this is what they're talking about. This guy right here.
Governor of California Gavin Newsom made a humiliating blunder when speaking to a reporter from NBC, where he slammed Donald Trump for spreading disinformation after the president-elect criticised Newsom for not ensuring the reservoirs were full to fight the fires. Newsom clapped back, saying all of the reservoirs in Southern California were full, only to be fact-checked by an NBC reporter who told him the Palisades Reservoir was in fact not full, in a humiliating blow to the embattled governor.
I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the president of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for or imagine, constant communication. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir.
Online commentators slammed the governor's lies, with this person saying he lies, gets called out on the lie, realised he can't get away with the lie, retracts. This person agrees, saying, "It amazes me how Gavin Newsom lies so easily with utter impunity and gets caught in real time." This incident is only the latest in a string of embarrassing stuff-ups from Newsom during the Los Angeles fire crisis. The governor was also caught out in a lie where he claimed he was on the phone to the president, but then said he couldn't get service whilst a woman who lost everything pleaded to speak to the president.
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through. So
Why?
I have to get cell service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now.
He was also slammed for backflipping on crime after he warned against looting fire-ravaged homes.
To keep people safe, no looting, zero tolerance for looting. That's why these guys are out here, and I'm very grateful for them, particularly for these critical checkpoints that allow law enforcement to move more mobilely and do the interior work.
This commentator exposed the hypocrisy, saying Gavin Newsom decriminalised looting under around $1,000. Now he says he's against looting. Typical politician. This commentator agrees, saying classic move, decriminalise it, then act all shocked when it happens. Politicians never fail to play both sides. The constant slip-ups has led many high-profile commentators as well as everyday Americans to call on Newsom's resignation. This commentator slammed Newsom's reaction to the looting, saying, "Illegal immigration is illegal and you proudly welcome illegal aliens to break into our country. No one takes you seriously. Resign."
No one takes you seriously. Resign. Once again, Gavin Newsom. He is the quintessential I hate politicians because they are snakes, liars. That's him. He is the embodiment of that idea. The idea that people have of politicians. They think that politicians do not have their best interests in mind. This situation really shows that with this guy. I think he had aspirations for the White House. Those are done. You guys need to pick somebody else. This guy right here, I guarantee you there's going to be the Democrats, or I'm guessing, I have a strong suspicion that Democrats are going to ask for him to resign as well. This is a very, very bad look. Very bad look. He's just constantly gets caught lying. And people don't want that. That's the thing. People don't want that anymore. They're like, you know what? We're tired of politicians lying to us. They don't have our best interests in mind. They're robbing us blind. You know, they're not doing anything in our best interest. They're doing everything in their best interest. So that's why they fight so hard for public office, because of the benefits of public office. So that's how the majority of Americans they do believe that about politicians. So there you have it, man. Whether you believe this is the Republicans or the Democrat politicizing this, that's beside the point. The question should be: was everything done and prior to this fire to mitigate what is happening right now in California? Was everything done? Were the elected officials, did they do their job to the highest of their abilities? Did they have the people's best interests in mind? Did they put in the correct processes? Was the correct infrastructure in place to mitigate this California fire? Or was it negligence on their part? At some point, you're going to have to call it to the carpet, and you're going to have to hold people accountability. Whatever name you want to put on it, they have a job to do. Did they do their job? And did they do their job in the best interest of the citizens? And did they do their job to the high standards that we put on the office? Simple as that. I myself, I think like Donald Trump. I think it was negligence. And I think this is a great example of dereliction of duty. I mean, I think this is a great example of putting a party before the country, party before your citizens. And you don't operate in a space where you have a mindset to have your American citizens' best interests in mind. This is exactly what we voted against. We're trying to vote this out. And it would not surprise me if Governor Gavin is done. They vote him out. Wouldn't surprise me at all.